prodigies, players gifted with abilities that allow them to excel in a given domain, and Cloudiful was believed to be a prodigy at the game Osu, with many thinking he would be the next top player in the world. However, 2 days after reaching the number 3 position, a post was made on Reddit alleging that he was cheating. But with no explanation as to how he cheated and only some peculiarities with his inputs, the community was divided on if he was legit or not. In response to the allegations, Cloudiful promised to do a live play to clear his name, and this is where his rising star came crashing down. In today's video, we'll analyze Cloudiful's rise to the top, what led to him getting caught, and why he got away with it for over a year. So let's get ready and dive into Osu. Osu is a rhythm game with a lot of different modes, but the most popular, and the one we'll be looking at, is Osu Standard. In this mode, your objective is to move your cursor over notes as they appear and press a button when the circle surrounding the notes aligns with its outer circle, and the closer to the outer circle you click, the higher your score for that note. Score is calculated across a few different metrics, but accuracy and combo are the most important. When it comes to accuracy, any note you hit that isn't perfect will reduce your rating, and combo keeps track of how many notes you've hit perfectly in a row and adds a multiplier. The score calculation does have a few other quirks, but those aren't important, so for now, let's look at the leaderboard. There are lots of different leaderboards, but the most prestigious is the performance category, which tracks your score across the top 100 hardest maps you've completed and assigns you performance points based on their difficulty. The actual ranking calculation is a bit more complicated than that, but essentially, the better you perform on hard levels, the higher you rank on the board. So what makes a hard map? Maps are created and uploaded by members of the community, and difficulty is added by including complex rhythms, faster tapping sections, and higher spacing between notes. In particular, maps that test a player's speed at tapping notes were what Cloudiful excelled at, and he had a meteoric rise through the leaderboard beginning in April of 2023. Over his career, Cloudiful has used a few different names, with Epic Gaming, Cloudiful, and Chudson all being different aliases. Looking at the Wayback Machine, we see that in early September of 2023, he secured a spot in the top 50, and just a month later, he had moved up 8 spots. By the end of December, he had moved into the top 20, and just 3 weeks later, he was ranked 10th in the world. That's a total of 40 spots gained in just over 4.5 months, and by early March, he broke into the top 5. In 2 more weeks, he'd reached number 4. It seemed his ascent to number 1 was inevitable, but April and May came and went, and he hadn't moved a single spot. That is, until June 13th, when he achieved the rank of number 3 in the world. This was a huge deal, as the top 3 had rarely changed since Cloudiful started his run, and just 2 days after his newly crowned rank, a thread would get posted to Reddit alleging that he was cheating. Osu Report is a subreddit where users can submit evidence of players they suspect to be cheating for the community to look into. Sometimes these investigations show that the players being accused are actually legitimate, but in Cloudiful's case, there wasn't a clear answer, and the community became divided. The post alleged that Cloudiful was using a Relax bot for his games. Relax is a feature built into Osu that will press the buttons for you, so all you need to worry about is positioning your cursor, and Relax will take care of the button presses. And you can see from the footage that it even allows a noob like me to play harder maps than I'm capable of, so in the hands of a pro, it would be deadly. However, while this is a feature in the game, if you have it active, your scores won't be submitted to the leaderboard, which is why cheaters use hacks that circumvent this and allow them to upload Relax games, which is obviously against the rules. To back up their claim that Cloudiful was using Relax hacks, the poster compiled data from his replays and analyzed his button pressing habits, and they showed that one of his buttons was being held down for a consistent 63 milliseconds with little deviation. This level of consistency isn't expected in humans, especially at the measurement of milliseconds. And if we look at other top players like the post did, we don't see a spike around a certain number. Instead, their inputs follow a normal distribution, which is to be expected. This didn't convince everyone that Cloudiful was cheating, however, as it only showed there was something weird happening that could perhaps be explained by hardware settings, and the thread never included what software was used to analyze his live plays, so there was also the possibility his games weren't being evaluated properly. With pressure mounting, Cloudiful promised he would do a live play the next day with increased proof standards to show that he was indeed a legitimate player. But June 16th came, and his live play never materialized. A player named BTMC was live streaming when this was happening and had this to say about why Cloudiful hadn't posted his live play yet.
Sorry for baiting stream. I'm super tired. Tomorrow, maybe. Bro, if you're genuinely risking your account getting banned, that would be priority number 1 for anyone.
This wasn't all that happened on the 16th, however. Minispet, a software engineer and Osu community member, would code her own tool for analyzing Cloudiful's replays and found the same 63 millisecond hold time, but with more refined data. In her analysis, she separated the graph by his key hold times, with key 1 in blue and key 2 in red. What you'll notice is that key 1 follows more of a normal distribution, but key 2 has the same spike at 62 milliseconds, which confirmed the initial findings. The only question was, why was this happening? The Osu Report Mafia, a group of players that investigate cheating, released their own thread detailing what they thought was happening, and there are two things I want to focus on from it: dynamic keystroke, or DKS, and their opinion on the input distribution. Around February or March of 2023, Cloudiful purchased a Wooting keyboard which allows for customization of key presses through the hardware itself and a software called Wootility. In the Osu community, keyboard functionality and customization are allowed in some circumstances, but things like macros and multi-key inputs are banned. Some players noticed that the dynamic keystroke setting in Wootility gave the same input range that was observed in Cloudiful's replays, but the Osu Report Mafia determined that he likely wasn't using DKS because it made the game unplayable as it would release sliders instantly. Dynamic keystroke works by altering the functionality of a key so that it can be activated at 4 different parts of a key press. What the investigators are saying is that due to sliders requiring a button to be held, Cloudiful would have had to hold the key in a half-press state if he was using DKS, as a full press would release the button detection and break the slider. Just because the method of cheating couldn't be identified didn't mean it wasn't happening, however, and they concluded that there were 3 possible causes for the inhuman hold times. Either it was an unintentional feature of his new keyboard, he intentionally configured his keyboard to behave in this way, or he was using cheating software. Ultimately, they concluded that the chances of him cheating were over 95%, and at this point, the community was going crazy for a definitive answer, as Cloudiful didn't stream with a hand cam and only had a video feed. So aside from his gameplay, there wasn't any other data to analyze, but on June 17th, he finally uploaded his live play. This time, he wasn't messing around and had a hand cam, input display, and showed off his computer booting up to show there weren't any programs running that shouldn't be. He even went into his Wootility profile to show that he hadn't altered any keys with modifications. It seemed like everything that was required to prove legitimacy was in place, and I'm told the initial comments on the video were celebrating his innocence. The reason I can't verify them myself is because within an hour of uploading the live play, Cloudiful deleted not just this video, but his YouTube channel and Twitter, because the live play had massive problems. The first thing that stuck out was how Cloudiful was positioning his hand on the keyboard with his index and middle finger being used to tap keys diagonally. This isn't how a lot of top players press keys, but a strange way of using a controller isn't a cheat on its own, and unfortunately for Cloudiful, the methods he used to prove his innocence would be his undoing. Viewers were quick to notice that the tapping he was doing didn't always match the inputs the game was registering. In particular, it looked as though a key was being pressed after he let go of it in certain situations, but this wasn't the only problem. Remember in the beginning where he showed off his Wootility profile? He only showed the profile he was using, and it's clear that other profiles are in the interface, but he never showed these, assumedly because he wasn't using them. But what if I told you can switch profiles by pressing Function and Enter? There's no possible way that Cloudiful would show himself pressing this hotkey, right? There it is, plain as day. He sets his hand down on the keyboard and presses Function and Enter. How he thought this wouldn't get noticed or why he didn't do this when the camera was pointed away from the keyboard we'll never know, which leaves one question: what did switching profiles accomplish? If you want to cheat in Osu, there are as many methods as there are flavors of soda. It really depends on what a particular cheater is feeling like when they wake up in the morning, so let's run through them. We've already covered Relax, which presses buttons for you, so the next method we'll look at is Time Warp. Time Warp allows the user to play the game in slow motion, making harder sections trivial as they have as much time as they need to press a button or make a movement when running at half or even quarter speed. This used to be a popular cheating method between 2017 and 2020, but since it's easy to catch, it's fallen out of favor, as an analysis of a time-warped replay will have problems with the frame data. It's also easy to prove that a time-warp cheat isn't happening, as was the case with WhiteCat, who put a stopwatch on screen when he was proof-called to show he was playing in real time. Aim Assist is another cheat, where instead of the buttons being pressed for you, like with a Relax bot, your cursor is helped when being moved to the note you're trying to hit, which just leaves two more cheating methods, enlighten and replay editing. Enlighten changes the rate of the approach circle around notes, making them easier to see, so for sections of dense notes you can make the rate higher and thus easier to read. But it can be detected by analyzing cursor movements or having the player suspected do a live play, which brings us to replay editing. Replay editing is the bee's knees of cheating methods, as it allows you to make adjustments to a game after you've recorded it. This is similar to a task in speedrunning, except it's incredibly difficult to determine if it's being used even with a hand cam. Because unlike a speedrun where it's obvious when someone isn't pressing a button, replay editing is a bit more subtle. In this example, you see that the line taken is slightly outside of where it needs to be, so a small edit is made to keep it inside. If you were to look at this on a hand cam and follow the mouse or pen, the adjustment made is so small that determining the edit from the video would be next to impossible. It's not a foolproof cheating method, however, but I'll be keeping the detection methods secret so cheaters can't work around them. So with all of the cheating methods laid out, which do you think Cloudiful used? In the hour before the live play was taken down, the community couldn't decide how he did it, but the most common allegation was that he was using a relax bot. This made sense because of the consistent key holding we observed in the graph across multiple games, but what didn't make sense is why Cloudiful switched profiles in Wutility, as that software doesn't have a relax hack built into it. Nobody could figure out why he did this, but there was one person who knew, and this story is about to take a twist no one saw coming. Plasma is a longtime Osu player, and he had been friends with Cloudiful since before this started, and around April of 2023, he discovered a new method of cheating when he was messing around in Wutility. As I mentioned earlier, some features of Wutility are allowed in Osu, such as Rapid Trigger, which is a setting that detects whether a key is moving up or down and changes the input to that detection rather than when the key is fully pressed. Others, however, are banned, either because they permit multiple button presses or increase the consistency of actions players take by a large degree, and that's what Plasma stumbled upon when he was messing around in Wutility. He set up dynamic keystroke so that key 2 would only function when it was released, causing it to be activated and deactivated very quickly. And by pressing down both keys at once, this meant that key 1 would function normally, but key 2 wouldn't activate until it was released. This resulted in the keys being alternated with a perfect consistency. So long as your aim was good, you didn't have to worry about completing tightly grouped note sections, which made speed maps much easier. For Cloudiful's games, this configuration of dynamic keystroke explained the inhuman hold time observed on key 2, and it also got around the slider problem the investigators raised since he could hold sliders on his unmodified key. When Plasma discovered this, he played the game in offline mode as he didn't want to upload cheated gameplay to the leaderboard, and in his excitement, he showed Cloudiful just to show off something he thought was cheeky and clever. He never thought Cloudiful would use it to go on a year-long cheating spree. Before Cloudiful did his live play, he sent Plasma a video asking him to evaluate his setup to make sure it was appropriate for clearing his name. And the first thing Plasma noticed was his strange tapping technique, and then it dawned on him. Not only was Cloudiful cheating, he was using the method he showed him over a year ago. Rather than call him out on the spot, Plasma decided to let Cloudiful upload the live play for everyone to see, and once it was live, he confronted him and asked if he was using dynamic keystroke, to which Cloudiful replied yes. This is when everything started to fall apart for Cloudiful, as Plasma made a tweet revealing how he had been cheating that went viral, and in his confession, he stated that all of his speed scores were cheated. In the hour leading up to Cloudiful deleting everything, someone messaged BTMC during his live stream with an analysis of some of Cloudiful's runs dating back to April of 2023, and sure enough, those games had the same input pattern, meaning shortly after he purchased his Wooting keyboard, he'd been using it to cheat with dynamic keystroke. To see this hack in action, here is Cloudiful's gameplay footage of Snow Goose, one of the maps that was analyzed in the original Reddit thread. These sections of long fast notes are called streams, and you normally perform them by alternating between two different keys instead of tapping a single key. But the interesting thing about these streams is that every time Cloudiful encountered one with an odd number of notes, he always had an extra key press after the last one. In this clip that I've slowed down, watch carefully. See the green X? That's an input from one of his keys that I'm playing back in a software called Rewind that lets you watch someone's gameplay. But why is this input present? There isn't a note to hit, and it always happens after an odd number of stream notes, but if he's using dynamic keystroke, it's easily explained. Since he's tapping both keys at the same time to execute the cheat, he will always have an extra input on odd-numbered sections. It won't happen on even-numbered streams, however, as the extra input is used to hit the final note. This is also the reason why things didn't match up when compared to his hand cam. The extra input always happens when he released both keys instead of pressing his secondary key by itself, which is explained by him switching to another utility profile that has dynamic keystroke activated. So why did it take so long for him to get caught? Prior to cheating, Cloudiful was a good player, and while his rise to the top was meteoric, he had built enough of a reputation that no one thought to look into his runs. Second, most of the players accused on Osu report are outside of the top 10, so once he reached the upper echelons of the leaderboard, it was assumed that if he was cheating, he would have been caught earlier. On top of this, he was the first person to cheat using dynamic keystroke, and it was such an unknown method that people initially thought he was using something completely different, as DKS was thought to be unviable. As a result of his cheating, Cloudiful was banned from the leaderboards indefinitely, but will be able to appeal in the future. To be allowed back, he'll have to keep on playing the game and show effort of having reformed, which has happened in the past. But with him deleting everything, it remains to be seen if he'll come back, or even if the community will welcome him. Huge thanks to Plasma and Minispets for help with this video, and I hope to see you in the next exciting episode of Abyssoft Z.